Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are based. It is a pleasure to have you, everybody, here for this very in depth, informative, and inspirational session together with Adam Wittsell. Have I pronounced it correctly?
Yeah, that's a really good pronunciation, actually.
Awesome.
Very good.
With Adam, we're here to learn a bit more about he builds, design, and develop, also to some extent, experiences for the metaverse. And indeed, the
Mm.
topic seems rather broad, but we're going to narrow it down with some real clear example, guiding to people through the process. And in general, as usual, I encourage everybody that is actually listening to us to go ahead and ask questions to Adam, to me, because that's indeed the great advantage of having people here that you have in the immediate feedback and you can actually gain knowledge live. So, Adam, it is really a pleasure to have you here.
I'm really happy to be here, and I've been following Shapes since forever, since the Tory days where I made a lot of storyboards in this thing, so way back. But been a fan, and it's really kind of helped me in my design process a lot, and it allows me to be very spontaneous in how I design.
Yeah, I
So
think
very
that
happy to be here.
spontaneous is actually one of the things that people usually don't mention. It's usually about creative, effective. But I think when you mention spontaneous, it takes the meaning of the word design to a different level, right? It's that level of being and feeling natural about things. And I think that's a very good adjective there. I think I'm gonna steal it once sometimes. Uh, but so while we waiting for people to chime in, I mean, I think it's a pleasure and actually asking everybody, where are you from? Right? I'm actually based in the Netherlands. Adam, what about you?
I'm based in Stockholm, Sweden. So yeah, we're heading towards the dark winter.
Dark days.
Yeah, but it's also when you get stuff done. So I mean, it's a two-edged sword, I guess.
That is true. That is true. And indeed, so I see there are already Luigi from Toronto. Then we have Leonardo from Miami, Aaron from South Carolina, Martin Mohammadi, Vancouver, Athens, New York City, Axel from Argentina, Palm Spring, California. So we do have a really good representation from that side of the
Oh my
world.
God.
Toby, Portugal. Hey, we should see each other. AW, are you coming to Lisbon? South Carolina. Rajat from India. Respect from the people of India joining. I think it must be midnight there. So if so, great to see so many people joining and tuning in. And again, I want to reiterate it now that we are starting. Feel free to ask questions. I do have some questions in mind, something I wrote down, but yours have always priority. So let me start saying, why are we here? So we are here to learn from Adam about his process regarding design and sharing, communicating experiences for the metaverse. We're going to focus on one specifically, and in general, how ShapesXR helped him to be spontaneous in his design process. So I also see Sikar from France, more people from LA. We also have someone from Norrköping, Sweden. Is that I pronounced it
Oh,
correct?
yeah, it's Norrköping actually. Yeah, that's
Norrköping.
very
I try
nice.
my
Right.
best, man. I mean, every
Yeah.
time I see this name,
It's
I'm like, oh my
yeah.
god.
Uh,
So thank you,
yeah.
everybody,
Oh,
is
that's cool.
joining. So Adam, before we're gonna dive deeper into the design process, maybe you can tell us first, who are you? What's your background?
Yeah. So I'm very old nowadays. I started with 3D in the mid 90s. And I were working a lot with like advertising, film before in 3D, and then I switched to interactive installations because the kind of the meticulousness of the rendered 3D process, especially back then, was not my bag. I'm not like the craftsman who kind of works forever on one thing. I'm more kind of conceptual. I want stuff to happen. So I switched to making more interactive art, that kind of scene making, working with dancers, musicians, that kind of scene, worked in open frameworks, processing, all those kind of interactive, creative programming suites, and all the game design tools as well. So I like this kind of being able to do something and get a direct input and kind of work in that feedback loop, which is kind of the spontaneous thing again. But I like the kind of, almost being able to touch the digital matter in a way when you work, right? So lately I've been working more in the corporate world, driving an immersive design lab for a big design studio, and yeah, that's me. And the last year I've been started Superficial Machines, which is a startup slash collective that works in music events, kind of how we can make the digital layer of music events more better to build communities, but also better to create experiences in. So that's a
And this
very
is a very important point that you're mentioning, right? Because very often I think that there is this concept that when we talk about metaverse, when we're talking about virtual reality, this sort of experience, it's about a space, but it's just so much more than the space, right? It's about the experience that occurs within that moment. Right. And so in order to make this bridge to what we're going to talk about, and about you designing this experience for a festival, right? A music festival. Is that correct? It's a festival, right? Not
Yeah,
really.
it's yeah. Well, it is a festival, but it's also a big collective with 2 record labels and a big roster of artists. So it's more of a permanent thing as well. It's not
Okay.
just this thing, but it basically what we're collaborating with them on is their metaverse extension, if you will.
Right. So tell us a little bit, Superficial Machine, and who else is involved in this, right? So what do you do now at Superficial Machine, and in general, how did you ended up connecting with these other realities still in the music world?
Yeah. So what we do and try to develop is different ways for music events to create better communities and or scale through immersive technology. So that could be, I'm a club owner. We're very much focused on the grassroots of music events, and in the beginning, very much on the electronic club scene, because that's kind of where I have roots and connections, and I also kind of where my heart is a lot. But it's a very kind of hard business, if you will. There's a lot of really talented people that don't make any money because there's no structures. There's hard to keep people coming to the event. So there's a lot of those issues, and there's also issues with how can you create a digital layer that would be interesting. How can you connect several events? How can you bring in a DJ remotely that might not be able to fly there? I mean, all these kind of digital experience layers as well, that we're trying to make like tools that many can use and then build on each other's knowledge. So it's more of a network with different tools than a product we're building. So we're very much focused on how can we make life easier and better for people who make music events and that greater ecosystem. That's kind of the overall. So very specifically, that means that we're creating an avatar-based membership, that a music event, the ticket to a music event could be a jacket for that avatar. And the next time you go, you get the pants, etc. And that's a way to build community. I'm simplifying this a lot now, but in a way that
Yeah.
it's that
Just for
simple, right?
now. Yes.
So even if it's a real event, the avatar still makes sense. It's your kind of it's your badge and the thing you think. You can have music on there. You can have a space where you can have posters from the events you went to, etc., etc. So there's like a digital experience layer, even if it's a real event.
Right.
And this spring we started talking to the Niega Collective through common acquaintance, and they share the same kind of views. So background. The Niega Collective is born out of Uganda 10 years ago, and they built this place for themselves as probably one of the most interesting electronic music scenes in the world right now. So they're way outside of East Africa, which is a very cool thing. And they built that through community and not through a massive studios or
Do
massive
you have a
reach in that way.
website? Do you have a website, Adam? Maybe
Yeah,
I'm gonna share it with people in the
it's
chat.
let me just double check that I'm writing correctly. Yeah. Can I write in the chat here, or can I just paste
Yeah,
it
in
in
a private
the
chat.
chat?
Then I'm gonna
Yeah,
share
I'll
my
do it.
screen.
Yeah, that's the festival. So if you're into electronic music, I highly recommend this place because it's like wild. They're doing, yeah, it's very,
Here I am.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
yeah.
please go ahead so that people will give also something to go by.
Yeah. So they just finished their actual. They have a festival each year, and they have like 3 years of hiatus because of the pandemic. So this was the first return after 3 years, and they just ended. And but they're on tour the whole year, or their artists. They're on all the big festivals, South by Southwest, Primavera, like all the big festivals all over. And they have for several years thought about how to make a digital platform that makes sense for them. How can we build a digital platform that enable artists to kind of meet their fans and build community and kind of create events, or maybe have a subscription service so you can explore their different content in different ways, right? So they make a lot of video productions. There are a lot of fashion designers connected. Like, it's a big ecosystem. It's not just about the music. It's like the wider ecosystem of what a music event is. And all
It
these
seems like there are
thoughts,
quite a lot, quite a
yeah,
lot of people showing up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I heard of this festival through all the kind of electronic music DJs and stuff I follow on Twitter. So suddenly it exploded, like, oh, Nigga is back, we gotta go. So it's kind of has this reach way outside of East Africa, which is also cool because, like, it's very cool to work with an African project that where they're the big players, and we're kind of tagging along as a startup and getting on their reach rather than the other way around, right? I really like that approach. And yeah, so that we started talking about how can the avatar be a way that artists express themselves, but also fans, and how can you bridge the gap between what's real and what's virtual? And we shared a lot of these common thoughts around like Web3 and the metaverse and what it can mean, like in a very practical way, not about this kind of glossy buzzword Las Vegas type experiences, but more about, like, in a very practical sense, how can grassroots movements and people use it.
By the way, sorry, Adam, I just want to fill in with people are asking a couple questions. And I think it's good to address them. Just briefly, he's mentioned, like, Martin, I think you might have a question or might have an answer. Can you touch base on how to meet music? Not in detail, but just quickly. Like, what's your experience maybe with a couple of sentences?
Yeah, I'm not a music NFT guy that much. I mean, it's definitely part of our plan. But I mean, so I think I better talk about how we think about it in the context of what we're building. So one extension to our avatar is a Walkman, like old school tape recorder Walkman with headphones, right? And that's not just a gimmick, but it's a way to have a music system, a way to buy music NFTs within this space we're building, which is like a main thing for artists to kind of have a market, etc., and also share stuff. So that means that we can have the tape as a 3D object, the regular music tape.
Yes, a set tape.
Yeah, as a virtual medium for music. So that mean what would the process be then for an artist, or I mean in this case the label, I guess? They would go to the kind of the organize section of our site, This is going to launch later this year. And they would like put in, I want to mint this song as a music NFT. This is the artwork for this tape. These are the royalties to the different things, like, which is kind of the very cool thing about music NFTs, of course, that you can just put in the royalties and all the percentage, who should get what, and suddenly lawyers and publishers and suddenly are no longer needed, and an artist can kind of sustain it yourself, or even like allow remixing in the contract themselves, so that when people remix it, that's okay, but it also means that revenue goes back again. It's like
to the original.
So I think like music is probably right now the best example of what an NFT can be, in a way, like much more about utility than having a JPEG in the metadata. I mean, and I'm really not an expert on music NFT minting, but that's kind of our approach and what we're developing.
So, and by the way, there is Luke that is asking, I think, more a question to the other people involved. And I think I would like to following up with maybe then asking who is joining right now. And says, could you maybe share on a one line what you're working on? Are you working on what's your metaverse project, in a sense? What is your experience that you're now working on? And this is indeed more a question for the audience that is now in, and would be interesting to know, because then maybe we could kind of like steer the conversation also in that direction. And so you mentioned that there was this you got in contact, right? And then questions arise. How can this experience go? What's gonna happen there? How did that evolve, and what was part of your ideation and design process? Can we start get more into this idea?
So I mean, we started very traditional design wise, like mapping out the journey, mapping out the pain points, like in the physical festival and beyond, and what's the pre state of the festival, who do you want to meet, how can you kind of connect with people who are going, I mean, all that, like super big Miro boards of we work in Miro for these kind of things. So we had this weekly workshops together with the founders there, and also I mean, we're kind of a big collective, and a lot of them come from like a UX designer background, like user-centric design. So we have those processes that are very kind of traditional in a sense in product development. And from there we started mapping out, okay, so what is a reasonable thing we can do now that would make sense, and what is a good first step, right? And we're very prototyping in how we think. We don't kind of map out this 10-year plan and then we're going to make the product from A to B. This is about like testing things for each event to see what sticks. So there are a couple of things. We know that the digital would make sense in the first line, like just making some digital extension of the festival, because we were in different regions of the world right now, and just practically made sense, but also in kind of what we want to test. So how do you make a platform like that, and how do you make it like in a very prototypey fashion, where, and this is super important from where they come from, where everybody can be involved. It's not about making this again top down. Here's the sci-fi metaverse experiences, and then just we pour some stars from the top, and then you could go in and listen to Carl Cox DJ there. That's not what we're building. We're building the tools for people to build that themselves, which is a different approach. And I worked a lot with Mozilla Hubs before, setting up corporate workshops for people and so on, and had very good experiences with it because it's so fast working. It has a lot of problems that you can tear your hair.
But I mean, let's be honest, the moment that you can allow anybody from a browser to just join in, that is just like a huge selling point, honestly. So we'd be curious, like also what other people are using in terms of platforms, because many rely on Altspace, some use something like Spatial, some are big VR chat fans. So maybe curious what you guys are using. I'm also like forced a lot more things that what people might think. Mozilla Hub, it's a great solution, I think.
Yeah, well, we can argue that, but it's a solution that is not. I mean, it works for our case very well, because 90% of the people who are going to use this is joining by phone, and 50% are joining from Africa. So we need something that is low end. We can't do like pixel streaming of Unreal worlds or anything. I mean, how much I would love to have a pixel streamed Unreal world where everything is like perfect. Awesome, but that's not kind of the reality we live in. And a big part of this is kind of breaking down the digital divide. So enable artists from East Africa and artists here to collaborate in a good way, right, without any barriers. And that's the one part of it. The other part of it is that we're not about to build everything as a production company. We're going to provide the tools and the kind of infrastructure for others to build. And that is Mozilla Hub's strongest point. You can just make a room and you can copy the URL to that room and drag that into the other room, and then you made a connection and you can jump back and forth. And that is so powerful that you can do that. And you can just drag in a YouTube video, and then now you're in an artist room and you can share the SoundCloud links or the Bandcamp links or whatever. I mean, an artist can go in and just, take some Lego pieces that we provide and suddenly have an artist MySpace 3D thing, right? And I think I come back to MySpace all the time because I think it's a good analogy for what we're building. Because if we do the MySpace way, we can make an organic growing thing that like a crazy weave, which is kind of what I would love to see in the metaverse. I want to get lost. I want to like you should see the guy like 3 steps behind the carpet shop. Then you will get into the rave. That's kind of the experience part of it. I don't want good UX in a way. I want really bad UX because that is good experience, right? So
bad orchestrated UX.
Yeah. So I say this all the time to kind of tease our UX people, but when you've gone into the woods 3 hours with your friends and there's the rave and the sun goes up over the trees and you hear this brilliant set from this brilliant DJ, it's terrible UX, right? It's like so unsmooth. Spotify is 100 times smoother, but kind of the effort to get there is what creates the experience. And this is kind of what we want to translate into the metaverse, kind of make it. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I mean, because you mentioned about storyboarding, those touch point, and then what's next? I mean, how do you move from what is technically a story, right, and maybe some visual and some sketches into something that then you can start talking about or sharing?
Yeah. So that's a leading question. So then I went go into shapes, of course.
No,
no. I mean, that's what I do. I was kidding. I go into shapes because that's how I sketch. And what I do then is like and this is what I mean with sorry, I lost my word. The being direct, the spontaneous part, right? When I go into shapes, I block out the world, and I have definitely some attention problems. So that's just a big help for me. Just without any app in, it's a good app. But it focuses me, and I can just start creating. I don't need kind of to figure out the set or make a Figma design kit before I can start or down. I can just start, and I even like stopped using primitives. So I just sketched with the kind of polygon brush now because it's like I don't even care about even edges at the beginning, but it allows me to very quickly do like sketch. Oh, how would this look? What is the kind of entry point here? And I do it in a very kind of design fashion. So that means that if I'm going to do a flow where you scan a QR code and then you get here and like traditional thing, I make the scene where the person holding the phone stopping in front of a poster and scans the QR code, because that kind of creates so much more context for me to design. And I think that's kind of, to me, that's the really big win for using shapes, that I put things in context. And even though it's like just screen design, I put it in a situation where, oh, there's someone sitting here. It's night. They're gonna call their friends.
And you
Like
start thinking
you get.
differently. Yeah, you start
Yes,
thinking because
yes,
you are
exactly.
there. You are there. So let's do one thing. Should we maybe hop in, because then I think right now it seems to be the most sensitive thing to do. So
Yeah.
let's go in Shapes. Let me put on my headset.
This is, by the way, how much I use my headset. So it just broke.
Taped. That sounds good. Guys, by the way, I wanted to say some people are asking questions. We are going to get down to that. So one of these, which of the project that ShapesXR come into play? Well, that's kind of like early. So at the moment where basically you do have that kind of like base storyline, we have to develop or think about this touch point or think at this touch point. That's the moment you can already start entering e-shapes, and that's good. Now Adam is going to show us what other things that he does live with us. So let me start sharing here while I set this up.
Am I going to join you, or just doing this?
No. You have to join me. You have to join me because
yeah.
I feel lonely.
Joining.
I mean, but that's actually one of the advantages, maybe for people that are not aware of it, that Shapes actually is a fully collaborative app. So that means that basically you can start working together in real time. So now I'm going to actually open the space, and we said we go first to the big space, right?
Yeah, the lobby space.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm now going there. Launch a shape. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Here, and sharing my screen. Give me a second, guys. Share screen. And here we are. So we are now, and we are already in the space. So this was, here is the image. Here we have it. And I think I need to be waiting for Adam to see where he spawns so that I don't get lost and he can guide me through this sketch he has built. But meanwhile, for people that might not be aware of it, so Shapes is design and prototyping software and allows you to start sketching and designing other spaces, experiences, and in general is particularly suitable for AR and VR products. So now we are gonna have Adam actually that's gonna almost join in, and I think it's better if we just mute in Shapes and not in on the streaming platform. So I'm gonna join in. I think that looks like the entrance. Adam, you are muted right now. In StreamYard, yes.
Yeah, well, we mute in Shapes, right?
Yes, we mute in Shapes.
Yeah, cool. 1 second, sorry. There we go.
He's joining. And by the way, there was a question above that I have missed, and I hope that Mr. Horse is still with us. Can ShapesXR be used to design a level for video games, VR games, and refine it in Blender, Unreal, Unity? Yes, the answer is yes. You can export everything you have as a GLTF. That is one way to export a 3D file. But you can we also have a plugin for Unity, and just type the code in Unity and get everything you have created directly in your Unity project. Mr. Horse, I hope that was not too late to answer as a questions and you're still around. Let me see if Adam made it. Not yet.
Sorry, I'm still in. Oh, all right. I don't. Oh, okay. No, sorry. Now I'm in. There we go.
Let me see. Oh, here we go. Hello, hi Adam.
Oh, hey.
Yes, just mute yourself in Shapes, otherwise we start
Yeah.
We do have
This
a
is
little.
what I used shape. Oh, there we go. No.
Here we go. Here we go.
All right. Okay.
So where do we
Should
start here?
Sorry.
Where do we start?
Yeah. Let's start out here actually, because that's where I started. I don't know. Can you follow me?
Yes, of course.
We're seeing your screen, right?
Yeah. They see my screen.
Yeah. So the initial idea for the Negiverse, Negiverse is what we call this metaverse thing we're building. It's the Negiverse, right? It's the metaverse. So I'm gonna call it that now. So you know what it is.
Okay.
So the idea was that basically have this as an underground mega city.
Right.
That was the idea, and the kind of story was that this thing existed below the actual festival. So there was like a relationship in a kind of story sense.
Right.
So what was going to happen is that when people danced above in the real world, right, there's going to be debris falling down from the ceiling, for instance. So in a way to kind of connect those two worlds, right? It could also be like you have holes where you can see a live feed in video through it.
Right.
So you can
something like rocks falling down.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was I wanted to kind of start creating a mega city kind of thing. And I just brought in a Google map. So this is actually a Google map from Kampala, the capital of Uganda. And it's not like it had to be Kampala at all. It's just that I just wanted an African city, and I just wanted something to start basing it on. So basically what I did is I just started to using, as I said, this this one, but I don't know if you can see this, but so I basically just started doing this, right? Let me do the other one because I think it's a bit better.
So in this case, these are volumetric brushes, so you can just start kind of like drawing.
It's not straight or anything, but it allows me to very, very quickly get volumes up.
Right.
There is a more detailed version in a later iteration, but I think you get the point.
Yes.
From this, so it's basically get a thing. So what we're seeing, if you look up here in this weird bird shape thing,
right,
is basically the lobby where you will enter this space, and if we go there, if we go back in here, I can kind of show you because this is kind of the design view. So basically, this is the navigation menu to jump to different spots. So what we did is that we divided it up in blocks. So one block could be about live music shows, another could be about art spaces, etc. So a bit like a real city, have different areas that have different context, right?
Right. So this is genius. So while the majority of people would have put probably a UI in front of people and with some images and say, okay, these are the different locations you can go. The experience of picking your destination is like looking through a world and then seeing different buildings in pointing you and sending you into different places.
Yeah, exactly, and it's also kind of this nightlife image. So this is going to be, like LED and neon signs all over the city. So it's a nightlife thing, basically. But also this could act as wherever you go in here, like from here into the art gallery space or whatever, you have this as a foundation, a way to orient yourself. Like, I forgot what the villain's name is, but the latest Zelda game has this like super tower where it's kind of the end boss. and wherever you are in the world, you can almost always see it, right? It's a way to kind of navigate. Wherever you jump around in this verse, you can always understand I'm in the city, and here's kind of the landmarks within it.
Right,
So this
right.
would always act as a I'm speaking Swedish now, like background foundation, right? So it kind of grounds you in the world, and it kind of tells the world story wherever you
Right.
are. So
And
that was
instead,
the
behind here,
design.
and instead behind here, there is also something going on here, right? So where will people appear? Would they appear here at this balcony, so to say, or?
Yeah, no, actually they would appear way, way, way back here.
Okay.
Do you see where I am? Yeah.
Yes, I am
So
here.
yeah,
There you are.
So this is why I placed them in it. So basically, this would be elevators behind us. I have not modeled them here, where you enter this space, and this would be the onboarding for new users.
Right.
This would be like, oh, this is how you navigate. Take it easy. Use WASD or use your teleport or all that kind of thing. And then there's kind of this whole thing is an onboarding journey. And it's also meant to be kind of a bit claustrophobic. So it's kind of
yes. In fact, I was wondering how come you have picked this already like a choice here for people. Are they going to left or right? I just started. You're already giving me choices.
Yeah. So it was going to be exactly the same journey. It's just nice with choices.
Right.
I kind of the forks, even though they mean the same thing, it still feels like agency to the user.
Right.
So yeah, here. I mean, this slope is in the actual final version later. That's going to be like much steeper, so you get a surprise when you get up here and see this big cave. So what happens here is that. And in a way, this is more of a, architects make this like functional map sometimes. It's more about mapping out the function of an area rather than the design. So this is kind of somewhere in between design and just mapping out functions. So one function that we are going to have is having an actual person that can guide you.
Right.
A customer service in the metaverse. So, this is the way you can go. This concert starts in an hour. You just need to make sure, everything like that.
Right,
I think it's a quite, cheap thing to do, but it gives a lot of presence to just have a real person greeting you. And just quickly, something I kind of wanted to get through is that Mozilla Hubs is a very kind of limited in terms of graphical scope. I mean, it's web-based 3D, so it is limited. And I just wanted to make like this is a cave, and there's like a thing with the Niege world of music is that it's electronic and quite harsh, but also very organic because it kind of has its roots in a lot of African percussive music, etc. So how can I make something that's organic without getting into like a really
curved
3D low res world or so on. So I figured out this card thing could be interesting. So it almost becomes like a feather system. So this could be a lot of cards with textures or anything like that. So it makes like
so something like
yeah, exactly. So I mean, and this is the way I designed it. So it's and that's also very kind of, it's almost like you perform the design, like you just did. It's, like it's more of a dance. It's like, and I always listen to like really loud music in headsets when I'm in here. So it's like a very time as I go through it.
Now I see why this is like this.
And we're in a kind of a co-working space, so people always laugh at me and bump into me and so on. But I kind of and this is we're in view mode now, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna edit something, but this is actually the room about the real festival. So we toyed with the idea to have this space also as a way for visitors to the real festival to kind of have a map and kind of a way to book their how they're going to live, if it's going to be like a camping or hotel, etc. So this is actually kind of the real festival space where you can the map. This is also where you're gonna be able to watch, like on this stage, this artist is playing, and you can know more about this, and you can teleport to that artist's room, etc. So there's all.
So you also bring information about the real world into this virtual world, so to also educate and maybe teach people. It's like a bit of a, instead of having a website, you can actually see the map of the place and see what's going on at a certain time, for example.
Yeah, exactly. That's a way to tell it. And these things, this kind of light or what do you call it, stalactite or stalagmite? I always mix them up.
Stalactites, I think, from the top.
But they were actually going to have an installation in the real festival or in the real studio that popped out of the ground, and it could be a two-way communication, like. You can drop something real and it kind of particles start falling down here, or you can do it vice versa. So make these kind of very kind of almost like the kids do with cans, with a string between, like an old phone. So have this kind of IRL to URL connection.
Right.
So this. I don't want to have this kind of a space that is just about a disjointed place in the metaverse. This is about real culture that happens. Even though this is virtual, it's still about real people creating.
Right. And there is that connection, both maybe in terms of the map, both in terms of this map here, in terms of this real installation that turns virtual here. So there are different elements of bridges across the two worlds, let's say.
Yeah. So I mean, now we're like I just did this in 2 hours and then we're done. But this was very much a back and forth process. So I just mapped something out. I went to Blender. I made like just some basic lighting, so it's easier to distinct the shapes, because this is quite. It kind of needs light to assess it in a way, right?
Yeah. And by the way, I remember that you mentioned that there was another space that that we could check out, right? That was a bit different. It's more about, let's say, more UI driven. I felt like, right? Because this is like the prototype of a space. Maybe we can check out the others.
Yeah, let's go there. I can
let's go. This should leave me.
This is, let's see, this is,
let's go if I can.
I hope.
And let me just stop sharing for a second. Let me get the code out. Right, we should be going. Let me see if I manage to be in the right one. And here we go. Yes.
Welcome. So yeah, this is actually the starting point.
Yeah. By the way, we've got other people joining. Hi, Wolf. It's a pleasure to have you. So here we have indeed more UI and VR related in a way. So thanks for joining. Thanks also to Enrit, who joined on YouTube. So that's very nice. And keep asking. We do have still some minutes at the end to answer any questions. So, but in this case, we are in a different situation here. What do we have here?
Yeah. So now we're kind of leaving this Ugandan project behind a bit. So this is more of a sketch of. So as I mentioned, we want to create tools for music events to create better communities, but also collaborate better. And kind of, yeah. So this is very much a design exploration in. So let's say we're making a real party, a real club somewhere. And this is where you upload the space. So in here, if you go to see from my angle, I guess, this menu.
Right.
Yeah, so you open your menu in this kind of, this could almost be Shapes, but maybe more Mozilla Hubs in kind of a social collaboration space. So in here, you bring your kind of 3D scan, which is kind of amazing now in iOS 16. If anyone has tried the new room scan, it's kind of, yeah. Never mind how you get this model, but this is kind of the venue where you're going to hold this party, and you bring it in, right?
Right.
So then you can start with your collective, or the people who are going to plan this party. You can start figuring out, where different functions could be. So it could be, let's map out where you take the tickets and the door, very basic stuff. Or down here, where should the speakers be? Where can the projector? Where can the projector be? Where can the bar be, etc. So this is about spatial planning, in a way.
Right.
Or just.
And by the way, Adam, sorry to interrupt 1 second, just so that I explain also people what is happening. So the way we are actually doing this and moving from one interaction to the other, you see, for example, moving, I get the opportunity to see this UI changing. This is all done using the stage system here in Shapes. It works a bit like frames in Figma. So you are able basically to build different frame and simulate those series of interaction. In this case, the option will be you add a function here. We'll see the entrance and the ticketing office, and then I can move forward and maybe, I don't know, put the lights and so on. So this is all simulated thanks to the frame system. Sorry, Adam, didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, of course. I mean, sorry, stop me if I'm going too fast.
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you can place different functions and plan together. And kind of, I worked a lot with kind of having people in VR or just in virtual environments plan stuff together, like retail spaces or those kind of corporate work. And it like still amazes me how powerful it is, because we go from this space with a very aligned vision of what this could be, or we have a chance to see where we're not aligned and can discuss it in a very practical way. And I think like this is almost, to me, the most powerful thing with VR or virtual spaces, that we can stand there together and agree that the bar is 120 high, and that would be a nice experience or not. I mean, those kind of very mundane things, in a way, is what makes VR powerful to me.
Absolutely.
So next step. What if we use this not just as a planning tool, but as a running the event tool at the actual event? So let's place a guy here. Let's figure out that, this is the bartender. That's Anthony. He has this slot between 22 and 23, like, 1.5 hours here. So now we're starting to add, personnel and planning that.
Right. And not only people, but also products and
yeah, and then we can figure out. So this is just a side note, but the point here is that this event should run on a crypto token. So there's means that it's very easy to keep track of spendings within it, which means that we can see what the stock is right now. We can see if there's like a high rise in beer sales, which means that maybe Anthony needs help here and we need to place someone else here.
Right.
So that's kind of a very practical thing. And this is kind of the DJ right now. And I have, let's see if here. So this is a run sheet of the event, which is a very common way to run events. So what happens, where, when, who should be contacted, who should I, etc. And I also think even this is very more easy to kind of plan in a virtual way, right? But but I think like the really interesting thing happens when you start adding experience as well to this. So let's say we have just for argument's sake a remote visual artist. That means that a visual artist can go in here and access this screen.
Right.
Start adding to it or start planning it together with the DJ before and having this system where they can talk, etc. So like going from a very kind of mundane practical way of using spatial planning, but when you start doing that, you also start realizing that you can use it for the experience itself and start designing experiences in here and even drive the real experiences. And then the next step is, of course, that you almost made a digital twin of this event, which means that you now also have a metaverse event.
And where digital twin is not just the space, but it's also the function and the activities that happen.
Yeah,
that is also
and the audio streaming and now coming back to full circle to why having an avatar membership system. Because if you're joining from the metaverse like we are now, let's say, we would see the avatar version of the people here.
Right.
That would be a way to connect several events together and connect the real and the virtual in a very real sense. So the people there can, experience it. If we're just talking now in this kind of tech cycle, they could experience their avatar through their phones or through interactive installations on the walls where they see like face filters or body filters or can have digital fashion on them, etc.
Right.
But that also means that they can transmit themselves up in the metaverse. That means that I can have a relationship with someone who at a real party in the metaverse equivalent. And that means that, besides the experience, it's also a lot of more tickets you can sell as a small organizer.
Yeah.
Or you can have a DJ playing at several venues that you couldn't afford otherwise. Or there's so many of these kind of
opportunities. Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that this kind of like thinking triggers a series of processes that is not just okay. We need a concert. Well, how is the venue going to look like? It's also about the function, and it's also about the meaning in a sense. And that I think it's important because very often there is this idea, okay, there is a metaverse experience. Okay, we need the space. We need the space. Yes, you need a space, but you need a space because of a function, because of a purpose. And then when you start creating the space itself, you should start thinking like, what are the extra opportunities that creating the space virtually that offers, right? And limitation at the same time. And you can still have a conversation before anything has actually been built. Because, but what about this? What about this? What about this? And you can start thinking and creating together. And then, as you mentioned, have that alignment that is so important early on.
No, that's a very good point. It's, just doing this in Figma, just this process, it would be,
Yeah.
I think I could have done it in a really interesting way. Because, like I said, I'm a very, in a way, practical person. I need to map it out, see that it works, kind of test it. I'm just now learned React just so I can, at least make web prototypes. I'm not going to be the best React guy ever, but I need to kind of have the material in my hand.
Yes.
And since so much of what we do is about the digital spatial layer, this shapes process is like invaluable to us.
Let's do one thing, Adam. Let's go back and maybe share the video of what's the final experience look like, because you sent me one. I think I should be able to stream it so that people can, like, while we wrap up and ask maybe some last questions, they can see also the final product.
Sure.
Awesome. Let me just get the video here on screen.
There was a long time ago I did like VR in front of an audience. I've done it so many times.
A performance.
Like you're going to talk in front of a lot of people. By the way, you're blindfolded. So,
so no pain there, right? Let me just check this.
Or I can share it.
No, I think I got it.
Okay, good.
No,
That's
it doesn't.
from
Let me
crazy
check again.
order.
Share screen, window, tack. So, and let me get.
This is a rough cut of kind of a where we are now. So this is like 25 people, volunteers, who has built everything from like amateurs to me. Oh, do you have sound on that one? Yeah. I don't know. Can you share it? Yeah. So this is like all the spaces that were built, not just the lobby that I showed you, but I can
Right.
we can pause it by the lobby and we can look at the video from it, which is the final. It's a bit boring to watch it silent, but
Yes, I know. Unfortunately, I cannot play the music.
oh, yeah,
People wouldn't hear it.
I'll share it in a couple of days, and you can watch it with full sound and the full edit.
Yeah.
But
So,
can I
by
share
the way,
my?
yes, go ahead. Share your screen. Let's see.
I can share the live space. What it became.
What has became from Shapes to the real, the real thing.
Share screen. There we go. Okay, good. Entire screen. Let's do it. Okay. Do you see this now?
Now I do.
Good. I'm just gonna turn off the sound. Mute. Good. All right. So this is the space that it become, and the thing is that the geometry is quite the same. I made a little script in Blender that replaced these kind of blocky things with more flat planes. And it's a very kind of this is what happened, and kind of there's very few tricks in hubs. I mean, this is baked like light baking, if you know what that is. And there's like a UV animation on everything, so you can kind of scroll textures to make it more alive, right? And these are actually part of sound sculptures. I don't have the sound now, but they have like this 3D sound when you go close to them. So they're a bit like beings in this space. This is where you're gonna join later. So this is the lobby. So this is where you continue in through the Metaverse. So this is like the different areas right now. So we don't have the city quite yet. So this is kind of the fallback right now. And this is the 3D map of the actual festival space that occurred with the camping and everything. And this is now this isn't updated, but this is actually linked, so you could update this with real-time data. So this is what happens on the different stages.
Nice. Right.
Yeah. So that, I mean, and we weren't at the latest iteration, but most of this I did in Shapes first as well, just to get a sense of the thing. And I find that when I work in Blender, it's so much slower because there's so much design decisions all the time. You need to be very meticulous about what you do, and I'm very slow. I get like stuck in details and polish stuff. So that's why Shapes is so good, that it's low, it's bare bones in a way that's, you know, it's very creative. So if this would have been fully textured and, you know, with everything on, it would have taken, you know, 3 times longer for me at least to design it. So yeah, and then you can go into you know,
right. So there is a question from Ahmed. He's asking, what software do you use to make the ShapesXR model you showed interactive?
Oh, sorry. Wait. Let me get back. Oh, whoa, not Leaf Studio.
I'm not sharing now, am I? Sorry.
No, not.
Oh, good. I turned it off. Good. Sorry. What software you used to make the shape as you showed interactive? I used Blender, and Blender has this connection to the Mozilla Hubs thing. Mozilla Hubs is open, by the way. If you're interested in making anything social, 3D on the net, it's a very, very good starting. But they have a plugin, so in Blender you create stuff, and then you can place like, oh, you start here. It's basically a very, very tiny Unity or Unreal editor if you worked with those kind of things.
Right.
So there you can like put animations in and kind of set up the scene for being an interactive space. So yeah, Blender with the Mozilla Hubs plugin is the short answer.
Perfect. Thanks, Adam. And I mean, I think we have reached the end of the hour. And Adam, I really want to thank you for sharing so much. And I mean, the importance of that thinking and like spontaneous and creative design, unrestricted by technicalities, because that's one of the things that you just mentioned, right? The ability to just be there and just be free to start creating without thinking about the details. And then once that's done, once that's sketched, when the idea is let's say solidified, go there and move to Blender, move then to Unity or to the software that's going to be used for implementation. But I think that is a very good distinction that sometimes is not very easy to make, also because designers are very precious and meticulous about what they do, and it's sometimes hard to still detach from that from that way of working. But absolutely. So, and I also want to thank everybody that joined, everybody that asked questions. So thank you very much, everybody. And I think you should follow Adam if you want to learn and see more about what Superficial Machine is actually going to put together to support communities, to support music, to support in general the whole ecosystem. So it's not just something that runs for themselves. It's more of an enabler for then much more to happen, materialize, even if virtually, right?
Yeah.
So
Thanks
Adam,
so
thank you very much again. Thank you very much again, and thank you very much to everybody that joined. And stay tuned. If you had fun or this looks any interesting, go and download ShapesXR from the Quest Store. It's free. Go there. And maybe last thing, just for everybody that is here and might be interesting, we have also always running the opportunity to book onboarding session for ShapesXR directly on our website. So if you go on shapesxr.com, you can schedule your onboarding, pick a time that works for you with Jeremy, our instructor, and learn together with others. People are having a blast. It's a great way to learn and to start creating in virtual reality. So please go ahead and have fun and get creative. Thanks again, Adam.
Thanks so much.
It was really a pleasure. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.